This is Shirley with Spirit of Matter. And we are on a Mars Day, Mercury hour. Ascendant ruled by Mars, 13 degrees Aries. And a midheaven ruled by Saturn, with Saturn in the 12th house. So we'll see how it goes. Okay, 8 degrees Capricorn. Saturn in Pisces. Mars, Lord of the Day, is opposing Pluto. But this is again a calm reminder that this Mars is exactly trining Neptune, that it is still sextiling Uranus, okay, in Taurus. Yes, it does square Aries, but it now also trines Mercury, and the Lord of the Hour is Mercury, 23-degree Mercury in Scorpio, ruled by this Mars. So we have a nice grand trine in the sky with this Mercury applying to perfect its trine to Neptune and to Mars. And this is a great time to talk about the deep scorpionic communication, big info. The moon is conjuncting Ketu in 4 degrees Libra, and Venus is in Sagittarius, 14 degrees Sagittarius, applying to oppose Jupiter Gemini. So, I finally got the live being okay technically for me to do that missing Netherlands chart. And this is a chart, let me go to my gallery here, that I found on the channel of these folks. And it is from 1815. So I did not see this chart before. I know I did comprehensive job on Netherlands. It has been in the news, okay? It has been, I think, only second to United States in terms of internal affairs. We had rising right-wing leader Geert Wilders rising, and I think he will continue in that way. And his previous prime minister becoming head of NATO. So what was local now becoming very, very prominent in the world. And so we have Netherlands in charge. We had Benjamin Netanyahu before 7th October calling back Denmark Rutte. And the association, okay, Netherlands, Brussels, NATO, Europe, the management of the budget to the war for Ukraine, management of things in the Middle East, standing up to Putin and now Kim Jong-un. Okay, so Netherlands is really becoming kind of a very visible hidden force in the entire economy. We know that the ICC, when there was discussion about war crimes, okay, Israel and war crimes, then that would be in The Hague, which is also in Netherlands. The thoughts about the Nexit, okay, and even thoughts about Gilden beginning to line up, leading for the moves with deportation of refugees. It's very controversial moves. And I have been looking, okay, I have been looking, charts of kings, of queens, the leaders, the Netherlands, this and that, but this is new chart to me. And this chart tells a story that for me as half Dutch who have been connecting with my roots and with the culture in past years, completes the story in a way that was not available for me before. So without further ado, let's take a look at the chart. We have ascendant Cancer, 19 degrees Cancer, okay? Rahu in Cancer, 9 degrees in the first house. So just by dissecting this, I see Netherlands is moving towards sovereignty. Rahu in the first house, okay, if you take a natal chart of a person, so Rahu in the first house might be that you always have a partnership, but you might be so into your partnership that you forget to focus on you. And towards your 40s, for a person, around maturation, you begin to focus on yourself. You say, I want to grow. Okay, you raised your children or not raised your children. with a partner, and so on. And now you want to do things for yourself. Okay? If you think about it as a body, an institution, a country, an organization, this is where there is always a conjoining, but is leading towards sovereignty. Now, this is fascinating because European Union is relatively new, and yet the thought about an exit, okay, breaking from European Union is coming up again. Right now, when the North Node is in 10th house whole sign, that is Aries. And this activates the cardinal axis. So this activates also the tension with Rahu, because Netherlands is becoming rising leader country of global change, reset, conflict, world war, and not in a Swiss way. Okay, so they've definitely been pouring a lot of money, and this has global. If we take NATO and the connection, okay, the Dutch person sitting instead of NATO, then this puts Netherlands as representative of the country in some giant global responsibility, and yet there's a tension with the Rahu in Cancer that wants to go sovereign. Rahu in the first house is moving towards being a little bit of an isle, but we're always going to have this moves back and forth from more sovereignty and more communion. Ruler of descendant, that would be the moon in 28 degrees Taurus. Ruler of ascendant, and before I'll go to how that works with the leaders and so on, the even deeper stuff about the monarchy, which surprised me because it's next to my ascendant, but let's just focus on this moon. Moon in Taurus is a very happy moon. That being said, it is in the final phase of Taurus, not too far from Algol. Here it has 5 degrees from Algol. It has wide enough orb to kind of separate it a little bit from the notions of Beta per se. That being said, this is the 11th house, it's goals and dreams. It's also public house. So Netherlands is known for its people having a more relaxed life. Okay, if you go one word I recently studied in Dutch, is called Niksen. Not the President Nixon, but Niksen basically means to do nothing. Okay, I don't know who has the privilege in Netherlands to do nothing, because people are very hardworking, but is a habit for what you call like slow living, where you just relax and chill. Okay, you don't really do anything much, and they have a word for it. So it's a more relaxed lifestyle. But there is also something interesting about Dutch people, that they're known as citizens of the world. So I try to see where to get to that, but we cannot say Netherlands without saying Dutchies. And Dutchies have significant relaxation. One of in this plentiful wars time, we always have the photo shoots of the windows in Amsterdam. I'm not talking about red lights districts, they're also known for that, but actually for the porches where you have the flag of Ukraine, of Israel, of Palestine, of Russia, some LGBTQ, and they say, we the people, okay? They don't care about these divisions. Why? The moon in Taurus is very much at home and is ruled by Venus. So Venus is about connecting things. Okay? So the people, they don't pay too much attention for these divisions, at least on a public level. Venus, however, is in Aries. And Venus Aries is about, if you would ask what is the love language of Venus Aries, it's doing something. So there we have this funny dissonance between Nixon and always being active. okay? Always doing something, and in Aries is something innovative. Mars in Capricorn is ruling this Venus. Okay, I go little by little. It is going to get deep. It is going to get deep, but I go little by little. By the way, yes, Moon Heaven is right on the Moon in Taurus, right on the midheaven of Mark Rutte, which was Prime Minister for almost 2 decades. But Ascendant is right on Rahu of, both Ascendant of Peter de Vries, which was very, very famous crime journalist, also for a while politician, and of Rahu of Geert Wilders. And indeed, is becoming more and more prominent when the cardinal axis is being activated by eclipses. Mars that rules Venus is in Capricorn, 19 degrees Capricorn. So Mars is right on the descendant. This gives us significant, passionate partnerships and conflict. And they have a little bit of a hidden form because Mars is in the 8th house, but this is Mars in Aquarius. It's Mars in its home sign. So what's ruling this, the activity of the people, the innovation of the people, is a very durable Mars. The people in Netherlands are not weak at all. When the people in Netherlands demonstrate, they have Mars that can back it up, okay? Mars in Saturn sign is durable, is exalted in Capricorn. Right on the descendant, it's giving a fight over the diplomacy. So if you think about the way Netherlands is managing the Ukraine conflict, okay? Should we give money, taxation, Saturn, to Ukraine or not? This is causing intense fight. So fight about taxation that Netherlands gives. Okay, so this is fighting, people fighting, but basically against the state. Fights between people about where should the taxes go. That can be. But there is also possibility of division. It's not the Uranus-Gemini clock strikes 84-year cycle and we have a civil war like in the United States or Israel. But there definitely is, and there is Vesta to this Mars, so there's a lot of investment when there is conflict. Now, it can also be investment into partnership. Because this is 7th house, is partners and open enemies. But there's a lot of resources of the people, particularly taxation, where there's a lot of fights over where will taxation go. And people in the Netherlands pay a lot of taxes. Let's talk about this Saturn. Saturn in Aquarius in the 8th house. Saturn in its home sign in Aquarius is less dramatic for a day chart. And Netherlands is indeed known by its many, many rules, but the rules, at least up until to a certain point, they used to make sense. So people were not necessarily fighting the rules of, let's say, municipality or government, because most of them, this is Saturn in Aquarius. And Saturn in Aquarius, Saturn in Capricorn can be, you know, the rich banker that wants to rob the world. Saturn in Aquarius, well, in the 8th house it can still be that, can be a bit more flexible. There's reasoning to the regulation. There's reasoning to the rule. And the rules are expected to be very respected. There are always outcasts to that. But rules are expected by most of society to be obeyed. However, the rules are also, in many cases, yes, for to assist society. Of course, there are. It's still the 8th house. It still has a shadow. And this Saturn already begins to make interaction with Jupiter in Libra in the 4th house. Jupiter in Libra in the 4th house, this Jupiter is ruling over a stellium in Pisces that we're preparing to delve into. But before I will delve into, first of all, Jupiter in Libra is bringing us a lot of, okay, it grows wherever it is, the house matter grows. And so the land court, and we have indeed ICC, okay, a big court in the land, but also philosophy of heuristics, okay. And if you look at Supreme Court in Netherlands for the building, I think the saying, the inscription is that where the decision of the jury or the justice, where the decision of the court fails, we have a war. So a lot of emphasis on philosophy of law, but Jupiter is opposing Venus, which gives actually extra emphasis. Okay, it's not direct perfected opposition. And this Jupiter is trining Saturn, which means that the rules have a philosophy, have a thinking, have a balance that is ruled by this Venus in Aries, which is intended to grant us sovereignty. So I know that there's a lot going on. However, we cannot ignore the fact that sovereignty for the people, even for women, is normally supported by the law. Okay? Again, when you talk about, well, in Netherlands, I cannot say that. Usually I say when you talk about kidnapping of children by the welfare, this is a global thing. It is true, but in Netherlands, there's something a bit more, and we're going to delve into it in a minute. Before I talk about this 22 Lot of Fortune, those who watch Water Expands Upon Cooling, of course, you already know what I'm going to talk about. Uranus 6 degrees Sagittarius, okay, sextiling this Jupiter, and the sextiling this Saturn. So there is something unusual form of philosophy, freedom, philosophy of freedom, laws that are supposed to ensure freedom, and basically for the right to be who you are. This is what is supposed to be governed by this, and Sagittarius here is the actually 6th house. So there is unusual form of labor rights, of something to do with innovation. And there is something very, very unusual, because to open business in the Netherlands, you really need a lot of papers for every type of business that you do. Okay? And yet it's also a country that supports a lot of innovations. I talked about the spherical houses in Netherlands, that many look at them and say this is like clown. Okay? One of the symbols, the emojis that are very famous in comments in Dutch is the clown, but it's also clone. But this is actually, it's a symbol of innovation, because even if the project did not go well, you still get the money, the funding to make a mistake and to try something new. Okay, so there's just a lot going for this very entrepreneurial, engineering, hard working, but in a sense that to create resourceful solutions to even everyday little details. Uranus here adds a facet of unusual, something unusual with the rules and regulations, but everybody is expected to obey them. Uranus in the 6th house can also denote unusual form of service or work when it comes to the nation. So philosophers, judges can have something unusual to do with the land. Okay, you ask me, does this denote of the snuff films? No, we do have Neptune, and the snuff films as global. Okay, Neptune 19 degrees Sagittarius. So Neptune also, okay, in the 6th house. And what is this Neptune doing? It is actually squaring a giant stellium that I will talk about in a second. So Neptune in the sixth house means that when it comes to human resources, there's something you have to surrender. You have a job, you don't have a job, your income, ability to work, but also your physical health. And issue of addictions can also be associated with that. This sort of conjunction with Vertex and Uranus means there's something fated about the way the sixth house operates. Okay, which means the basically kind of like the manpower, the service people, but also people who are in service of the state. Then we have this 22 lot of fortune, 22 Virgo, opposing this giant stellium in Sun, Mercury, and Pluto. I don't know if this is Apollon, Cupido, I don't know, in Pisces, and there is also Chiron in Pisces. Lot of fortune is a point where if you go to Hellenistic astrology, I'm not Hellenistic astrologer, but I combine techniques, there is what we call zodiac releasing. And lot of fortune means that some fortune is going to happen, okay? It is not about your choice so much, it is what happens to you, whereas lot of spirit is how you respond to that. But also you have releasing of lot of spirit is when is window of opportunity for you to be more responsive. There's a lot of very fascinating thing about Hellenistic astrology. You can read Chris Brennan's book, I think the Faith and Fortune in Astrology, something like that, where he goes very deeply into that. And a lot of fortune on 22 degree, if you combine for Nicola Stojanovic teachings, this is degree of murder. So what it gives us all together is that every once in a while, when we have released zodiac releasing and it's perfected for Netherlands to have an event, we are predicted to have more chances, and why do I say more chances, you'll soon see, of some sort of political assassination. Of who? Now we look at the hard aspects. Ruler of this lot of fortune is immediately Mercury. Mercury Pisces. Mercury Pisces can be both drug dealer, journalist, judge, a person of the word, a media person, a child as well, or somebody that is ruled by Mercury. Okay, so Virgo persona or Gemini persona. What is protective? And we have a very protective bisextile. And the bisextile teaching is I got from Lada Duncheva that is very protective over the person. The bisextile can be something that can protect you even from assassination. And we have this bisextile between this Mercury, Sun, and Pluto to Mars and to Algol, particularly, Pallas Athena, and to some degree the Moon. So there is quite some protection for these figures, whether it's leaders or monarchs or journalists, even true crime journalists. Okay, this totally is okay. That when Neptune was crossing over, I think the time he was assassinated, and that well, the assassination was not. It took him 9 days to die, but it usually denotes a person when is Neptune transit, person going to a better place. Journalist, okay, so cold cases, 22 of murder cases, journalist, Mercury, and he had Mars, 20 degree Pisces. So that was, and Mars was also ruler of the ruler of his ascendant, the ruler of his 10th house, who was slaughtered because of his political assassination, because of his career. And then we had Pim Fortuyn, which also is, I haven't looked at his chart, but also was right-wing Dutch leader, but they said that he was also associated with drugs in some way. I don't know if it's true or not. And that tells me that there are fated events to do with true crime. And this can also give me gigantic. I have not seen such industry of true crime, cold cases in the media, journalist coverage, I think, in any country. I think it's even more than United States. And this is denoted by this 22 lot of fortune in Virgo. Okay? Coverage, news coverage, book coverage, media coverage, going viral in Pisces of cold cases of murder. Okay? Not just Peter R. de Vries. The cold cases industry in Netherlands is gigantic. That's why when I said this Israeli, when I heard crime journalist died, I thought this person that, writes at the column at the paper. Okay? that columnist at the paper, and you see them on TV. It makes sense. No, I had no idea for how grand it is. This is what shows us for this entire industry. Unfortunately, it also denotes of another industry, because Mercury is also industry. And here we have to take into account that this is third house, which is also denoting business. Many things, routine, business, neighborhood, siblings. There's a giant 8-hour episode right now of astrology podcast about the third house. I just began to watch it. And that can also entail expandable children, assassin children, because Mercury is also children. Both hitmen, like drug cartels, hitmen and so on, but also a lot of fortune, something fated to do with expandable children. If there is Hellenistic astrologer in the crowd, you can take upon this chart and maybe, yes, this would be March 16, 1815, 11:47 a.m. Okay, I would need okay, if you want to do that, bug me in the comments. I will tell you for the name of this. Yes, I know this place. Of this place, of the location. And you can see if you can have zodiac releasing from this lot of fortune, which will we may do conjoint episode where we look into the political assassinations and see if that correlates, okay, with what I said. There's 22 degree, and that will be combined in teaching of Nikola Stojanovic, which is completely different type of astrology. Lada Duncheva, okay, for the V-sextile, and Chris Brennan for Hellenistic astrology. So if you're so inclined, then contact me. Now let's go a bit deeper. By the way, the 1100, the crisis of the 1100, that was also people during COVID feel the formula wrong, and they had received money from the government, and then money was taken, people went into crisis, and their children were kidnapped by the welfare. And this is an example of how the rules in Netherlands expected to be obeyed, but sometimes not reasonable at all. Okay? And where are these children? Yes, they're not being, gezellig. They're not being cozy. So, but like I said, it was at the time of a prime minister, but he said the last taboo in Netherlands is for a person to live alone. Okay, for no children, grown man or woman to live alone. So all the people that but they got divorced, and their children unfortunately got kidnapped. Because if we cannot accommodate for the single person, then we cannot accommodate for entire nation. And this is something to remember. And this time it was men, but also true to women. Especially Sedna. Sedna is approaching 12th house of Netherlands. That is according to this chart. And Sedna is here in the 11th. So, Sun 25 Pisces in the 9th house, monarchy, very exalted, very appreciated, very celebrated, everything orange on Queen's Day, everything orange, um, and very prominent. Okay, um, with this Jupiter in the fourth, there is connection between the monarchy and the people, and it's a genuine connection. Some would say more benevolent, some would say less benevolent. We even had Queen that was considered one of the people, whether it is, hermaphrodite called show or not. You gotta watch Trudy Verstegen, but basically the story was that I think it was the prince back then of Netherlands was traveling to Spain, and there was this woman that he was meeting, and she didn't know who he was, and they got together, and then she became a queen, and she made it possible to have Dutch nationality, based on language, which of course you can see with this Mercury conjoining the Sun, but there's also the presence of Pluto here. And Pluto's Sun is giving us a lot of hidden power, but what do I say with Pluto? Pluto hidden power is also exposed. So right now, as Neptune was going over this Pluto, yes, we lost Peter the Vries, but we also had the scandal of the 1100. Both things, both the scandal of the children and the political assassination of Peter the Vries. If you look at it, you see there's connection to the court. Okay, Supreme Court leaked information and had to enforce for the papers and the kidnapping of the children and so on. And this is royal court. Okay? I don't know. It is what it is. I have no idea. Okay? I have no idea. But as Neptune proceeded, it proceeded on. Okay? And is still proceeding. It's now playing the back and forth at the end of Pisces. Then this is where, both, by the way, I was in Netherlands when it was on my ascendant. I was fated to be in Netherlands. And to discover all these things. Okay? Through channeling, by the way. At the beginning, through channeling. Later, I would look and see and find out. But this also tells me that even though the Sun, the monarchy, is 25-degree Pisces, we still have significant placement. Okay, the Saturn of Rutte. Yeah, I know he's head of NATO now, but he's still Dutch. He's still representative of Netherlands. And Neptune is going the back and forth right on his Saturn as he's approaching his Saturn return. He's already in effectively his Saturn return. It's perfecting, okay, for the coming year actually. So I said you're going to hear a lot about Mark Rutte. When I said what I said, remember when I said that on Wilders? Okay, then I said this on Mark Rutte. We're only beginning to hear about this person. And if you look at the episode that I did, I think I put him on the spotlight a lot. So let's, allow people also for the place to be. But this is going to be very major. Rutte is not done playing a significant role in Netherlands. And I dare say that the story with the royal family, the story with the monarchy, anything that pinpoints the last phase of Pisces has not done playing its role, including the broadcaster with ascendant 26 degrees. So 24, sorry. Yeah, that's significant in terms of Neptune. 24 degrees Pisces. What can we expect? Neptune, Pluto already began to leak stuff. Also, this chart wasn't here, and now it is here. Okay? There are a lot of hidden things to do with the monarchy, with the media, all to do with some sort of espionage, Pisces, but also shamanism and healers. Okay, and astrologer is also Neptune. And when I was in Netherlands, I was doing what channeling experiment. Yes, and I don't know which type of MK Ultra was on the wavelength. Okay, I just try to do experiment with channeling and see what happens. Um, so we are absolutely not done with anything to do with this very intense Pisces location. Nor is the story of the people who are no longer. I haven't looked at Pim for Twain, which is still all you to look at his chart. As per Peter, he's Saturn 18 degrees, and he's, I'm sorry, midheaven 18 degrees Pisces, Mars 20 degrees Pisces. So Saturn is still supposed to go direct on this again. Last time it happened, there was a tax scandal that was exposed in the family, and there was problem because the media did not let the cantor for the family, for the son, to respond, but the family could not, it had to choose, okay, this is too expensive to say, okay, why did you not at least let us respond? Um, and that was related to taxation, so Saturn is taxation related. But Saturn also will go around the Mars. So there was like a taxation scandal with the midheaven, but then there was going to be the Mars, which is also ruling for the 10th house. So we are expected to, raise ourselves. All people that were, touched by whatever the endeavors and so on, whether it's viewers or just ran into the chart or something like that. Okay, we expected to brace ourselves. And then Saturn is going to complete his journey on this, I don't know, Apollon, whatever, Pluto, Mercury, Sol, okay, and conjoin Neptune. So it's going to be second Saturn return for Mark Rutte, which I cannot ignore. But we also cannot ignore what is going to do to the monarchy, what is going to do to the media, what is going to do to any affiliation with intelligence, MK Ultra, drug cartels, okay? Things are popping up. I don't have chart for Trudy Verstegen because she's dealing with so much assassination attempts towards her that I just don't want to even bug her about this. But if you ask me what would be the most fascinating Dutch chart, I would tell it Trudy Verstegen. Trudy Verstegen. Very likely. As for monarchy, is there some sort of karma to do with the royal family? I don't know what type of karma. And again, day chart, Saturn is not so concerning. So we also need to remember that, unless you are a night chart. Okay? If the person is a night chart, it will be more problematic. If Peter de Vries was night chart, like me, more problematic. But for day charts, for Netherlands itself, Netherlands will take that. But then it's the question if the person receiving the karma, the person with the placement in Pisces, or last phase of the mutable signs, which is Gemini, Virgo, Pisces, and Sagittarius, is day chart or night chart. If night chart, this is going to be more disturbing. Okay? If it is, let's say for myself, I don't know if it would be so safe for me to travel. Okay? I don't know if, I still don't know if I would or wouldn't, but I don't know if it would be necessarily so safe because I'm night chart. But for people within Netherlands, if you are day chart, less problematic. You receive some sort of karma, but it's not going to, ruin your entire psyche. For Peter Wave was night chart. Yes, that is going to be more problematic. Yes, We need to understand whatever will be exposed, whatever this, whatever that, and I don't know what. I also brace myself. So, okay, we have to brace ourselves for this Saturn. For Rute, I don't remember the ascendant Virgo, 6 degrees, this I remember. Sol Aquarius, so also night chart. And that is more intense. He has to go to when he was 28. That's basically when he was 28, he was having such transit. So, as per monarchy, again, day chart, not so problematic. Night chart, this is a problem. Remember when I said I did the chart for Peter, and I said, what is this thing? It doesn't look like the date of death. And I see it was announced that 15 July. And I see he was shot 5 times, also in his head, in chest or something like that, by a car. And I'm like, but gunshot, this is night chart. Gunshot to head is not a problem. And it took 9 days to die. What did he die from? His Saturn was in Sagittarius, Jupiter was in Virgo. Mercury was in Mars sign. So it's something to do with either his beliefs. Virgo for him would be 3rd house. Sagittarius 6th house, so we know he died because of his work and so on. He was also going out of RTL. But Saturn is rules and regulations, and I know it was against the WHO. Okay. So there was something, I know he was working closely with Judge Joris Deming. And 15 July was when Hans Amandma, who claimed to have been hurt by Deming severely, applies, I think it was for the UN, and it begins to gather attention. I know there was also, Peter spoke against WHO, but you see, it's Saturn. It is Saturn. It is unfortunately prolonged, but also it's not by gun. Okay? Yes, Mercury is 23 degrees Scorpio next to his sun, but this is very indirect. It's very indirect, the gunshot. He was shot 5 times. Was shot in his head, took 9 days, okay? So I'm not saying he survived completely, but definitely the more problematic was the rules, the regulations, something to do even with something like taxations. But I think this is not taxation or debt, but more like the structure. And the structure here, structure in Jupiter is the structure of religion, some religious structure, and Jupiter in Virgo, so religion and chemistry, 2030. Okay, I said what I said. I said what I said, and it was very apparent. Okay, I've also thought the first time when I asked him about this, and I was thinking about more the police, he said, this country is North Korea. I did not imagine how corrupt, I had no idea how corrupt, how deep the corruption goes. And he did entire life dedicated to people who suffered from intense corruption. So, and he died 64 years old, so, and the family says they knew him only going out in the morning, coming back in the evening. So he dedicated the time. Okay, he had the time, the experience, the depth of analysis to know the things, and even he did not know how deep corruption goes there. So this is how you see, where's day chart, was night chart. This person shot by a gun, their night chart, you know that the shooting was, the gun is not solving the cold case. You need to address Saturn. What is Saturn? I said that in 2022, I said that 2023, I said it's 2024. Okay? I know he was two gender. I know he was hermaphrodite. I know he was working with demic. I know. He still tended to things nobody tended to, and it wasn't for the clout. It wasn't for the clout. And no one tended to these things that he tended to that level. And stood up against a certain structure of health, of religion, that eventually took him down. So brace yourself. Neptune has gone over these planets. Neptune has gone. It made Netherlands viral. It made the monarchy viral. It made the leaders viral. One person that tremendously benefited, I don't remember him having anything in Pisces in particular, and that location is more like the Virgo, and even Virgo is not last phase of Virgo, okay? So two people that greatly benefited was Mark Rutte going viral, becoming head of NATO, and it's not done with his Saturn return, and the Geert Wilders becoming from this very marginalized, right-wing, everybody, being very stigmatic about him, to kind of like the savior of the hour. Hey, there's so many refugees coming from Brussels, dictating everything. Is getting way too much. Dutch people don't have housing. They have to wait for years and years, and refugees to get the housing, but it's so much so that the Dutch can contain. Then he began to rise, and on that basis, with 7th October, influx of refugees, more influx coming, and him supporting Israel, so getting the Judaic Israeli crowd and those affiliated with them, okay, major voting sector, then rising and finalizing right now his moves to become prime minister. And to lead Netherlands to Nexit, okay, to separate, but also wants to unite with another part of Belgium, which can be Crimea and can be not Crimea. And if we do Nexit, then what would be of NATO? So there's a lot of things going on that this Neptune already created, all the back and forth, okay? And through the pandemic, which was also Neptune, through espionage, we had a spy minister, Dick Schoof, Dick Schoof, and I owe you I still did not do his chart, so that's another debt I have to you. And then, I guess some monarchy scandals where the 1100 children. By the way, the symbols for the 1100 of Netherlands and for the kidnapped people in 7 October, same symbol. Okay, want to pay attention to that? Go to Trudy Verstegen. It's the best source of information around that. And remember, whenever she says Zionism, that the Zionism, they cut dividends to Vatican, and she addresses that. Okay, she has dealt with her children being kidnapped, so we can't, it's not time to judge for her phrasing, to be the most diplomatic in this situation. More important to bring out the topic of expandable children, of cloning people, of bringing people from rape into rape, and these are leaders, and that's not being tended to. So my predictions for Saturn going over Pluto. Saturn conjuncting Pluto is a change from the core. And as a person who's been dealing with that, with hard aspect Saturn-Pluto, this is a change from the core. It's a change that you cannot run away from. Both people cannot run away from. And something must, all the secrets that affect your lineage, your teeth, your hair, your skin, your nails, your bones, bone structure are transformed. It can be something very simple as somebody seems slouching. Okay, I had energy, so slouching, then started to align my neck. Truth started coming out, started to get it. Okay, so what happens if you have it between people? You see one person, it's like, hey, let me help you with the neck, let me help you with the this, let me help you with the that. You start saying things, and that person is going through something, maybe grief, maybe loss, maybe this, maybe that, and you start exposing stuff because they are exposing your spine. Okay, and that structure, and both of you can't really get away from the holistic implication of this spinal cord movement. Okay, and it doesn't matter what the rest of the chart is. You better have, if you have the support of Uranus and Moon, you can be more radically accepting that this is who I am, this is who you are. And we had, if you watched my synastry of Cor Van Hout and Peter de Vries, one of the most memorable episodes for me. Fantastic interaction. Then when you have this support for the Moon, it can be fascinating. It's still very challenging. If you have natally hard aspect between Saturn and Pluto, you will see that whenever this is triggered by Saturn or by Pluto, you will have such relationships kind of like the Cor Van Hout, okay? They're unusual, there is age gap, or there isn't age gap, but there is borders gap, okay? Two sides of the law, okay? And that is not an easy aspect. It can be feeling like your soul is being going to death and rebirth with your entire lineage. Okay, so that going over chart of country, it means that the entire secrets of Nederland are going to be karmically what? Exposed. And this happens, they go right over the Mars of Peter, and then right into the Mercury of Rute, and into my ascendant, and into Saturn of Rute to meet Neptune, okay? And Geert Wilders is smiling, I have nothing in Pisces. Go fuck yourselves. I've done enough, okay? And then, of course, to the monarchy. So this Saturn is going to bring such karma to Netherlands. Now, this happens every 28 years. So I will have to have a sequel for this episode, because what happened 28 years ago is going to happen this year, or 2025 is going to happen. So we're going to have to go 28 years to 2025. That will leave us with 1997. That's that 1996. But remember with Brussels. Brussels, I said what I said. Okay, Brussels, 1996 Brussels. There was this Mark Detroit, the Epstein, okay? But the thing is that they took the Epstein and they litigated him as the sole responsible for the fact that he kidnapped, I don't know how many girls it was, but it's also happening to boys. And supposedly he raped all of them together. Even if he would be fed Viagra by, infusion to the veins, he would die from heart attack before he would physically manage to. But this was, what do we have in Brussels? What do we have in Brussels? Well, the Dutchies with the kippah. What do we have in Brussels? What structure? Brussels decides for what refugees would go to which country and how much. Brussels, we have the court, we have EU, we have NATO, we have so many things in Brussels. So many things in Brussels. Okay? How, you ask me, Shirley, how is that related to Netherlands? Wait and see. Why spoil you? Wait and see. Okay? It's بعدين Epstein, بعدين the Diddler, بعدين everything. Um, but when Ronald Bernard did not want to do that to children, they called him for Brussels to say you're top criminal. Must. That's what's up. So 2025 is going to be a big karmic year for Netherlands, according to this chart. Media, involvement of the media, the expendable children, drug cartel leaders, drug cartel lords, okay? WHO has already been bringing the karma to drug cartel lords, but it's not like it's the karma because it's WHO, like that's just a bigger drug cartel. So has agenda contributors. And then Saturn is going to conjoin the Sun. Now, what is different between this and 28 years ago? 28 years ago, we didn't have Neptune in Pisces. Now we do. This means that if you're expecting, yeah, 28 years ago, yes, I've been there, done that, it was very tough, we're going to another this. No, this won't get viral. And this, we know that Saturn, Neptune, two astrologers that tend to that is one is Austin Kopok. And yeah, I think Austin Kopok, he began to tend to the Saturn Neptune cycles, and then he had yes, he had followers around this. And so the Saturn Neptune is also related to Russia. We already see how that plays out. We have the guy that has scheduled to stand up to Putin, saying, I'm going to stand up to Putin. And that is Mark Rutte doing it through NATO. But it's also connected with Russia, communism, China, all of the jolly things. The exact conjunction will be happening in Aries. Don't let that fool you. Okay? Okay? Don't let that fool you. If there are connections between royal family and China and Russia, the certain karma. Now with Neptune, you can't predict of what the karma will be because a lot of things can be hidden. I said what I said, the generation, I think they have Neptune-Saturn conjunction, okay, in Capricorn. They are going to be playing a huge role in dissolving, okay, for certain systems. Now, because Saturn takes 28 years, and because Neptune takes, what, 300 years, even more, then this Saturn, you already know, is 7-year cycle. You think like, oh, there is no karma. And then the time comes, and there is. Okay? With Neptune, it's even more intense because there's something so, you have to surrender so much when it comes to Neptune karma. When I began to work with Neptune for the second season of Water Expands Upon Cooling, because I wanted to dedicate to missing people, entire world fell apart, kind of, and like so many things were coming from so many places, and I'm going to my Neptune square time, so there's just something so intricate about Neptune that I cannot tell you what it will be because I don't know. And all that parade is happening next to Saturn of Ruta, but before that, the Sun, this is the royal family and all the leaders of Netherlands, especially on international arena. And they could be hidden. We may find out certain people are Dutch, but we didn't know are Dutch. The media, the jury, people of the word, okay, photography, Saturn Pluto, all secrets exposed. This is what it means. For day chart, for Netherlands, is not so bad. Now, for the particular people, if it's day chart, you'll go through this depending on location of Saturn in your chart and so on. If it's night chart, brace yourself. Okay, I'm night chart. I have ascendant 24 degrees Pisces. I brace myself. There's some things I'll have to just surrender. They can even be my own nationality, my own passport, okay? Like that can absolutely be something like that. It can be my entire life. What can I do? It is what it is, right? Yes, and with Neptune, but with Neptune, I can brace myself that at least if I'm living, then to a better place. But that is not necessarily perfected. I have 6 years, six house perfection. This is my ascendant. 6th house, nothing to do with that. So it doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to leave, but definitely I don't expect to have the jolliest of times where Saturn is going to go over my ascendant, applying to meet Neptune again in eclipses. So I just brace myself. There is something very protective. If Lot of Fortune is not activated, something very protective about being in Netherlands for these degrees. So it's probably preferred for me to even be in Netherlands for these degrees, unless Lot of Fortune is perfected, and then, what can I do? If it's time, it's time. But it's probably preferred for me to manage to somehow get there. It's freezing cold right now, so I don't know how do I do that, and I have no accommodation. And again, you have to surrender a lot of things. This is where I see the main thing. Now, Pluto is going to ingress into the 8th house for Netherlands. That tells me that, again, any funding scandals. You think about the Rabobank. Saturn rules decentralized structures. If you don't know what the Rabobank, watch Trudy Verstegen. I cannot with you. Okay? So, Rabobank is structure of cooperative. Okay? It's not pyramidal structure, it's cooperative structure. Pluto of 8th house of Netherlands is going to dredge up all these stuff. As for Jewish people, because the grand religions, all the grand religions are involved. Muslim Brotherhood of Satan, same, okay? The green Adidas. The Marxists, same, okay? The Marxist of Rothschild. The red is Rosicrucian. But I had no idea. I learned it very recently. But the thing is that they tend to blame the Jews. Okay? Most Jews have nothing to do with that. Most Jews are secular people that happen to be born Jew. For for Jews in Netherlands, the Pluto ingress is not going to be happy. Okay? And that's something I don't take lightly. I say it only as I look at this here, because when the funding is going to be exposed, nobody is going to ask if this Jew was Zionist or not Zionist, and if the Zionist, for most Israelis, the word Zionist is kind of like for Netherlanders, Dutchy, or for Americans, I don't know, for Americans, yes, but they don't know anything about this. Okay, they don't know about the satanic ritual abuse, and because they call themselves Zionist, and Jews call themselves Zionist, because they think Zionist is like patriotic about your country. It's like loving your country. So they have no idea, and they would not understand anything. But for people outside, they would not understand what the difference is between people who practice satanic ritual abuse and Jews. And this is where the grand concern. The decentralized structures is also settlement. You think about the kibbutz, the moshav, there were MK Ultra type of settlements. Okay? Most people in Israel don't live in kibbutz or moshav, don't even own an apartment. When Palestinians were talking about the olive trees, we're like, what olive trees? We never had olive trees. So Pluto ingress into 8th house of Netherlands is not going to look pretty for Jewish people at all. I don't know what to say. I'm only small channel. I can remind you that the Zionists cut dividends to the Vatican, and when Trudy says Zionists, she does not mean the common person who just happened to be born Jew or have Jewish ancestry. Okay, she does not mean that. And satanic ritual abuse is real. And there are Jewish cults, like Gur Hasidi, that practice that secretly. The leaders, the common people, I live amongst them, common people, very nice people. But the leaders, the higher rank, they practice that, yes. And most people depend on them for the income. The chances that entire humanity will understand all of this intricacy that I have been spending at least the last year, since 7th October, trying to explain, because it's a very good diversion tactic from tending to incest cults, abuse, ritual abuse, sacrifice of children, child marriage, and all of these things since the Inuit. It's very good diversion tactic. If you see mother like Trudy, that her children were kidnapped into this satanic abuse, she doesn't have time for explanation. Yeah, this rabbi, this Zionist, these Jews, and the Vatican, they're together doing ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta. And they're also Muslim Brotherhood of Satan. But the most she will say is, this Zionist, this Zionist, this Zionist. That's what she has to say. She's hurting her pain of, in Hebrew, say, Em Shekula, okay, no, God forbid, no, her children are alive, but of her children. She doesn't have time to explain to you in diplomatic ways. But unfortunately, entire Jewish community that did not tend to satanic ritual abuse on time now suffers tremendous complications, and those unfortunately are compared to what we saw between 1939 to 1941. And this is when Pluto ingresses into Aquarius, I am afraid to say. And what pains me the most is both the grief over people that did not have connection to that, instead of tending to satanic ritual abuse, to have Holocaust again or democide again. And for when we talk about satanic ritual abuse, for us not to tend to that, for us to tend to the Jews, but not to tend to what's done to children since Inuit, and that would actually not progress society if this happens to the Golden Ages. Okay? You ask me if I see here Holocaust? Yes. Will it be better for Netherlands or worse than it was in World War, Second World War? I think kind of like Second World War, yes. Kind of like French Revolution times, combining with Second World War. Uranus will go over the moon of Netherlands when it leaves Better per se, triggering more, okay, more of that. But when the world will be exposed to the scandals of the Rabobank and the decentralized cooperative structures of banking, and this is already cooperative, you cannot say pyramid, then it will be very difficult to explain to people what is the difference between anti-Semitic and going against satanic ritual abuse, if Zionist is involved. It will be very challenging, and even so much so that there will be Jews that just will be so busy defending themselves that it will not tend to ritual abuse of children, which is to their detriment. Because for a child to go through this, some children for better not be born even than to go through such things. Okay, I'm not defining for someone's destiny, but this is horrible abuse. This is something that bothers me. The ingress, now, not going to necessarily be immediate, but when it goes over Saturn, we'll have another Pluto-Saturn hard aspect. And this thing, all the hidden wealth, hidden structure, where Netherlands is not so tight, and this is too cooperative-like, decentralized-like, but also globalist-like structures that are either highly orthodox or highly technological or even alien associated. All things Aquarius, all these things are going to be exposed one after the other. So it's very transformative time for Netherlands. 8th house is transformative. And this is something that we didn't have in the French Revolution, this chart. So that is the first. That's the first touch of Pluto here. You see, it's the natal Pluto is in Pisces. So for this chart, it's the first touch of Pluto here. Neptune, I said, Neptune is just making Netherlands viral, but also surrendering of its power and regime. And then we have Uranus, which I began to tend to, which is going to go over the people. Uranus moon, revolutionary in care system, in welfare, in the people themselves. Okay, to say that it looks pretty, it does not. Moon Uranus conjunction is a hard aspect. Moon is where we want to feel safe. Uranus is ever changing. So where will be the safest? I don't know. It is perhaps at the war, the frontier for some. But children could be fighters. Ruler 5th in the 7th. unfortunately. It's also, especially for the boys, young men fighters. We have Dutch Royal Army, but fifth is children. This is the satanic ritual abuse. This is how it shows. Okay, it doesn't show satanic ritual. It's not like the writing on the wall, but when you know that the phenomena exist, this is where you would also see that. Yes, it's not going to be easy for Netherlanders. I would say even so much so, they would need, I don't know, if Wilders for the next seat, they would need new declaration of independence. I cannot tell good election for that. I made a series of astrological consideration for declarations of independence, but they would need new declaration of independence for Netherlands. As per what a good date would be for election in 2025. November 19 is already problematic. Then 2025 already begins to be problematic. Then what we don't want is to capture these problems in a chart. So the problems will problem, but there's going to be a need to find good elections for a declaration of independence for if there will be Nexit, which I have to admit is going to be very challenging. It's going to be very challenging to do Nexit for various reasons. Even people that are now safe in Netherlands are not going to be. Okay. This country relies on bloodlines way too much. It's going to be exposed, but it's not going to be so fantastic, let's say, for people, and I don't know. When Neptune enters Aries, 10th house of Netherlands is very simply put surrendering its place in the world. Not its existence, but how is Netherlands on the worldly scale. It can go even more viral. What can happen here, I'm afraid, can be something like what happened in Germany. It's not impossible. It can be. But here there's something more. Yes, it is very reminding of this. To say the truth, I don't like city chart in that respect. It's a very fascinating chart. It has Rao to my moon, ascendant to my moon. It has all this stellium next to my midheaven. And I've been completely transformed the more I connected with Netherlands. I have Rao in its 12th house, not from sense of hidden enemy, but more from sense of fascination and ability to see the blind spot for Netherlands, which I have. I have Rahu, yes, Chiron too. So I have more ability to see into what perhaps from within Netherlands you find it difficult to see. As for remedies, I don't know. Okay, it's not something that pops immediately to my mind. We can call on Procyon, would be very effective. Andromeda could be effective. Beta Persei, challenging. Okay? Because for Beta Persei, we really have to, it is not impossible, but some Beta Persei. Spica again. Okay, Israel, let's say, has midheaven on Procyon and ascendant on Spica. Netherlands doesn't have these benefits. It maybe serious, but the dog star is also associated with violence, so you don't turn to it magically. So Dene Balgedi. When I was in Netherlands, I worked with Dene Balgedi. It showed me mainly where to steal from. Food and the gloves. Okay, for the winter. I say the truth, okay? So it tells a lot about the place I've been. But again, it's not that this doom and gloom is unique to Netherlands, but also this is very for this chart is very challenging times in terms of the outer planets, in terms of Saturn. Okay, Saturn again is not the most problematic. The Mars Pluto, you probably want to know about the Mars Pluto. Not much to say, okay? It is sextiling the moon and trining the sun. So the Mars Pluto actually supported by Netherlands and supportive of Netherlands. It's not supportive of partners of Netherlands, and it's not supportive of enemies of Netherlands. So this Mars Pluto is actually good. But the rest of the story is going very, very challenging. And the level of karma here is the Pluto hard aspect, is a change from the core. But what are the good news for the world is that the world will face for this MK Ultra, except that they will just blame it on the Jews. It's very likely to happen. And Netherlands has been leaning a lot about the church that is pro-LGBTQ, pro-this, pro-that, and that is thanks to Masonic cults, the type of lodges in Netherlands. But unfortunately, the price that was paid was satanic ritual abuse. And there's a lot, okay, you're gonna tell me about trade of this, trade of that. Yes, very likely there's a lot. Hidden banking, hidden liquid estates. Yes, very likely there's a lot. But it's also in Norwegian. Sirius in the 12th house, I don't like so much. Uranus is about to ingress into the 12th house of Netherlands, which the good thing about it is that anything hidden enemies will be exposed. But also what's happening in the Red Light District, what's happening in the attic of every place, what's happening in the hospitals, in the jails, okay? Netherlands had a lot of relief, a lot of grace about its jails, I know, but what's happening in its asylums. So Uranus is going to expose that and be revolution. This is where, for example, I can see people rebelling WHO from the hospitals, the jails, and so on. And court system is already involved with this espionage. You see Tahi from Moroccan Mafia. He is now representing himself. I don't see a lot of coverage for this story. And he's representing himself because he doesn't want to affiliate with any contour, any lawyer's office that has to do with protecting sex offenders. He doesn't want to go baby Zin, to put it very simply. Hussein baby Zin, you want to look for that. So there are different fascinating things happening, uh, but I don't know where that leads. The involvement of the, like, how deeply Netherlands is involved with the worldly agenda is going to be exposed. Unfortunately, they're going to blame it on the Jews. In a very rare case, they will remember the Vatican. But this is the time where also the church is, okay, scrutinized. So, um, big giant times, which for this, like the Saturn on Pluto for Netherlands is not bad. It needs to be exposed. But the Pluto into the 8th house is not good. And then and the Uranus into the 12th house can make entire nation go verrückt, okay, go crazy. Which is also going to be applying to the Uranus opposition. So there's going to be rebellion in the, now this can give us rebellion towards the healthcare system, towards the reset, towards 2030, because that would be exposed. But the people who are in charge of that are a bit affiliated with that. Okay, so there's a lot of intricacies to Netherlands, and this chart is very explanatory in showing more of them than I have seen in other charts. Yeah, but to say that I was happy or satisfied of seeing this chart, no, no, it is challenging times, very challenging times for both the leaders and the people and everyone involved. Yes, so, and in terms of, like, say, astrological remediation, so maybe calling on better per se, fifth lunar mansion is very good for Netherlands. Fifth lunar mansion, Dennebalgedi, which conjuncts Lilith, and Lilith in the 8th house, you understand, is not good. Lilith is where we usually want equity, but here it is through something that is hidden, can be traumatic. I will not elaborate about this because I've tended to it so much that I'm just exhausted. Chiron 10 degrees Pisces. Yeah, the chart itself, the chart is charting, but and it has a lot of good, not only the challenging things as in any nation, but the transit chart is what I'm most concerned about. And think about eclipses coming too. Pisces, we might have some fated events, even of political assassinations. Yes. So I guess this is why it took so long to do this episode. And that was the timing. Let's take a look at for the current chart. Whoa, right on Pluto. Look at this 29 degree ascendant Taurus Saturn hour. Oh no, I don't want to release it in Saturn hour. Okay, I will finish recording here. And look, Moon was just going over Ketu. And it was Moon hour up until not long ago. I will post this, but in an hour. Okay, so I finished recording, but I will post this in an hour. So to skip the Saturn hour.